We are so excited to dive into a topic that's been coming up fairly often in the office lately, which is everybody's favorite topic of bowel movements. We have been finding a lot of patients have been saying, I don't know if you can help me with this, but I have been struggling with constipation. And so we thought it would be a great idea to just come on here and talk a little bit about bowel health, microbiome, fiber, just kind of the top things that you need to know to help yourself have regular bowel movements and understand how gut health can be a really big key insight as to the health of your overall body.
Yeah, Nicole's having conversations like that, and I don't know if I would consider myself the hippest person out there, but apparently I came across the fact that there's a trend of fiber maxing to where individuals now are realizing, oh, fiber's good for me. Let me take a crap load of it, pun intended. So yeah, we'll definitely dive into that of the benefits of fiber, but then also why, like with most things, too much of a good thing can actually be a little problematic, if you will.
Absolutely. And beyond fiber, just there's some other things to consider. Just generally like probiotics. Do you need them? What to look for if you're looking for to take a probiotic, how that influences how things are moving through your gut. And I might even just say some lifestyle things that are going to help things like your overall gut health function improve. Really simple stuff that you can start implementing today that is free and doesn't cost you a penny.
So, to dive in big picture, why we care about the gut. The gut is an area that is continuing to provide more and more knowledge and information about what it actually does. We've learned that it is involved in so many different aspects of our well being, our health, our physical capabilities. And part of it is because it's essentially the gatekeeper of what the body allows in and what it keeps out. So, for all the benefits and everything that we know from a food perspective of eating your fruits and vegetables, it's going to do X, Y, and Z great things for you. It's only great and beneficial if that actually gets into your system. And it's your gut that serves as the bouncer of your body. It has that list and checklist of like, okay, who's getting in the club and who's staying out and who's getting kicked to the curb. Fiber and all of these strategies are really to help keep that gut nice and healthy, to ensure that all the effort that you're putting into consuming those good foods, having the proper supplements, that your body's actually able to absorb it. And not only that, but it's able to help keep out some of the bad stuff to maintain a strong immune system, keep us healthy, and decrease the odds of getting sick.
Yeah, and the gut is also really related to the nervous system. So I talk a lot about the nervous system just by nature of being a chiropractor. But when people tell you, like, listen to your gut and I have butterflies in my stomach, those are all actual neurological things that are happening. And there's a whole part of our nervous system called the enteric nervous system, which is what is believed to be embryologically. So, like when we're developing in utero, the part of your nervous system that actually develops before the rest of your nervous system. And so making sure that you have a healthy gut where things are being absorbed properly doesn't only help with things like inflammation, immune system, just fueling your body, but it also helps with the overall neurology and the body chemistry that your entire body encompasses.
I don't know if anyone had it on their bingo card that the word, what even was that? Embryology? Embryology? What, what was that?
Embryology, yeah,
And okay,
it's so cool. I could go down a rabbit hole. Embryology is the study of how we develop, like from sperm and egg at the beginning to like how we become human beings. And it's a whole thing. But anyways, the first thing that develops is the neural tube, which becomes your spinal cord in your brain. But all of that is how your gut ends up developing. It's a whole thing. I took a class on in chiropractic school. I honestly probably could like study it for just a passion project because I think it's incredible. And this is probably also why I love like babies in pregnancy because I think it's just so fascinating. Yet there's quite literally so little we know. But to bring us back, the gut is highly linked to that, and the function of the gut matters not just because like you should go to the bathroom every day, but because it's doing all these other things for you too.
so from the nutrition perspective, fiber gets a whole lot of attention because that is really what is feeding that microbiome. So the fiber that we consume is essentially the food for all of that good bacteria that lines our intestines. So we want to make sure that just like us, we need to eat food to be able to perform and function optimally. That microbiome and that good bacteria also needs food to be able to stay healthy, stay strong, and to stay populated throughout the entire intestinal lining. That way, again, it makes sure that it's a nice, happy environment in there to be able to absorb everything that we are consuming optimally, reap all of the benefits of all of that, and then again, to be able to keep some of that negative stuff out. So the fiber consumption in particular, and that's the area like nutritionally that I always kind of gravitate towards first, as opposed to embryology. I'm going to use that term as often as I can because it's a new one and it's absolutely going to get used in Scrabble. But from the fiber perspective, that's why it gets a lot of attention. It's able to really help ensure that we have a healthy gut, and it's also able to do a lot of beneficial things from cholesterol aspects, glucose control aspects of things, and then also just a satiety piece. So, what that fiber can do is it can really kind of help create a bulk within the gut. And that bulk and that gel-like substance really can start to kind of slow down that digestion process to allow the stomach and the intestines to feel a little bit more full for a little bit longer of a time period. So that distension and that slower release of everything allows for that fullness feeling to linger a little bit longer. And by feeling full, naturally, that's going to allow us to be able to manage our caloric intake a little bit better. So, for individuals who are looking to keep those calories in check, potentially lose weight and things like that, ensuring that they're consuming adequate fiber is absolutely going to be able to help with that purely from the satiety piece. And then, while it has that bulk and it's slowly going through, when it forms that gel like substance, it's really going to be able to help bind to that cholesterol that's kind of floating around and be able to essentially just kick it out. So for any individual that does that blood work, their LDL is a little bit elevated and they're like, oh, shoot, what can I do to be able to help bring that down? Fiber is something that gets thrown out there. And so if we know a little bit of fiber is good, a whole lot can be better, right? No, not necessarily. But that's kind of the benefits, nutrition wise, of really what that fiber is able to do from that perspective.
So you mentioned fiber being something that's used to feed the microbiome. And here I can go again, all about embryology with the microbiome. But the microbiome, like I would like you to actually dive into this, but just generally, it is a whole bunch of microorganisms that live in our gut that we originally get from actually being born. It comes through the vaginal canal. We end up picking up the microbiome from our moms when we're born. And then as we go through life and develop and we touch things like a table or countertop or a toy on the floor, we pick up different bugs and organisms, and our body learns to take these gut or these microorganisms, and our gut gets something called inoculated with them. So they can align the microbiome, and it's part of what keeps our gut safe for, so when more dangerous things come in, we don't get more ill or more sick. They kind of help us process some of those bigger bugs that are around. But I feel like something patients ask me a lot about is how do you know if you have a healthy microbiome, and do you need to be taking probiotics, and what does, from your perspective, from a nutrition aspect, what does that look like on, I would say, even like a day to day aspect, but then even with travel too?
Yeah, so it's tough to really quantify what a healthy microbiome is. Yeah, you can take all sorts of these different types of tests and stool samples and things like that to get an idea as to what your microbiome is. But that's still a relatively early area of science to where we're continuing to learn what is an optimal microbiome because every single person's is going to be different based on just as you were saying how we were brought into the world is going to impact that microbiome. What is our environment? Where are we traveling? What all are we interacting with is going to impact that microbiome. So, what's good for one person may be bad for another person because they're exposed to different things and need to be able to navigate different things in different scenarios. So, I always hesitate when kind of taking some of those tests to put 100% trust into it, purely from the fact that, like everything, context is key. Yeah, the information is great, but we want to make sure that it's applicable to us. So, going from the non stool test aspect of things, if we're just subjectively trying to assess, is my microbiome healthy, well, and strong? The best ways to kind of go about that are just to assess how you feel. Do you experience bloating 24/7? Do you constantly have cramps, stomach aches? If you go and exercise, do you have that cinder block feeling 24/7? Are you going to the bathroom regularly? Are you constipated and you're only going to the bathroom once a week type of a thing? It's taking that time to just kind of assess and truly evaluate how are you feeling, but understanding a lot of times individuals just get into a routine where like I go to the bathroom once every 4 days. That's normal. I feel fine. It's understanding and being careful that when you do that evaluation, just because it seems normal and feels fine to you may not mean that it's optimal. So it's understanding, okay, pull up the Bristol stool chart. What should my poop be looking like? How frequently should I be going to the bathroom? And then just taking that information to then evaluate and assess, how do I compare to that? How do I fall in line? Because those are things that, yeah, are a little bit more universal than the specific stool sample, because that particular microbiome and the different bacteria strains that are within our gut, again, are going to be incredibly different. There are so many strains of bacteria that it is incredibly difficult to be able to differentiate and specifically state X, Y, and Z are better than A, B, and C type of thing. So when taking probiotic
Yeah.
supplements, it's important to make sure that you understand the strains that you're taking and you're not just blindly grabbing anything off the shelf.
And I would say, like, we've had some patients take Tiny Health's stool test, which I actually really like. And they send you a really nice report when you have it done. But the thing that they look for more than anything is, do you have like diversity in those microorganisms?
Bingo.
So they don't want you to have like a million lactobacilli, right? Like they want you to have, I don't even know all the names, but like they want to see that you have a lot of different kinds of bacteria. You want a lot of diversity in your gut so that when you're exposed to different things, the ones that need to be ramped up can be ramped up, and the ones that can kind of be pulled back can be pulled back. And these are things that are just like happening and you don't even realize that they're occurring. And that's how you can travel and you can do things without getting traveler's diarrhea and like an upset stomach and things like that. And so the other thing I really like about Tiny Health is they'll say, okay, you seem to be low or like not as diverse in X bacteria. Here's a probiotic that actually can help replace that. Or here are some foods that naturally have this occurring in it, and you should try that instead. And so I like that kind of concept of, if you're going to go the stool test route, of looking at what is it specifically that you lack diversity in, rather than just being like, I'm going to take this general probiotic. But I think if you aren't ready to jump to the stool test, kind of like Jay had said, how are you feeling? I think those are really important questions to be asking. You can take like just a general probiotic and try it for 60 to 90 days. Does it make a difference? If it doesn't, that's probably not our fix. There's a lot of other ways to like help gut health and healing that doesn't necessarily have to come in the form of a supplement or a probiotic.
And what I would say, the big thing that you mentioned there with Tiny Health, I absolutely love the fact that they look at that diversity piece, because that really is going to be the biggest thing, because all the different strains are going to do something different. So that 100% is a lot better than kind of in my head where some of the different tests go, where they're just like, you are deficient in this. And it's a lot more just direct and quantitative as opposed to looking at the diversity of everything, because each different strain serves a different purpose. That's why a lot of the supplement companies, when they're recommending particular probiotics, it's because of what that specific strain has been shown and correlated with. One strain may be able to help with digesting carbohydrates. Another strain may be able to help with breaking down fats. Another strain may be able to help boost the immune system by keeping out X pathogens out, type of a thing. There are so many, and the differences seem so small to us when we read them, because there's that first word of them. You have lactobacillus, bifidobacterium. Those are the two main ones that are studied the most. And then you have that word after it. I believe that's considered the genus of it. If that same probiotic, if you have a probiotic and you have two strains that start with bifidobacterium, but that genus is different, while it seems relatively small, because like, oh, bifidobacterium's bifidobacterium, that difference is essentially the exact same as the difference in the DNA strains between us and monkeys. We have like 96% of the same DNA as monkeys, but it's that last little bit or whatever. Like, don't quote me on that percentage. I know it's a lot, but it's that last little bit of difference that has dramatic changes. Like, just go to the zoo. You're going to see that difference. Similar thing with the probiotics. So that's why it's important to just kind of understand, it's difficult to definitively say this one strain is going to work miracles.
Totally. And I would say, even like from personal experience, I was on quite a bit of antibiotics over the last year for complications with postpartum and breastfeeding. It wasn't my favorite thing in the world, but I was starting to get some gut effects from it, because when you take broad spectrum antibiotics for a long period of time, it is essentially killing off the microbiome inside of your gut. And as we kind of talked about, we need that microbiome to help us digest food, help with bloating, help with cramping, move stool along, all those things. I chose to take more of a broad spectrum probiotic that is going to just help generally re-inoculate my gut. And it is a goal of mine, probably in the next 6 months after I've been taking my probiotics for a long enough period of time, to probably have one of these stool tests done and say, okay, great, I have done 90% of this on my own. What is this last 5, 6, 7, 10% that I need to kind of fine tune because I was on antibiotics for so long? That is not the case for everyone. Not everyone needs to go down this journey. There's a lot of other things that you can just start doing in your day-to-day life that, while probiotics seem like the simple and easy fix, like, oh, my gut's bloated, I'm just going to take probiotics, it can be helpful, but that's often not always the easiest solution.
Yeah, and that's where making sure that you get good quality food in is going to be huge. So the high fiber types of foods, you're going to have things like the whole grains, the whole wheat breads, nuts, seeds, beans, legumes, all that fun stuff, as well as the lovely vegetables, everybody's favorite. Fruit, a lot of times, isn't going to be the highest source of fiber. I know sometimes it gets thrown out there and touted a lot. You need to eat your vegetables. The vegetables and all those other options are going to be great sources of that fiber to be able to provide a lot of those benefits. And absolutely, the probiotics do still serve a purpose and can be incredibly beneficial, especially in a situation to where if you know you did just kind of wreck your microbiome, whether you were sick, whether you traveled internationally and you got a little bit of that traveler's diarrhea type of a thing. 100%. There's going to be situations where repopulating some of that good bacteria is very beneficial. And that's something that we do with a lot of the athletes that I work with. If they get sick, a lot of times they get put on something like a Z pack. After that, we make sure, okay, we need to get that gut nice and healthy again to decrease the risks of getting sick again. Because if you don't have a microbiome, all those benefits that we were mentioning in the very beginning that it provides are now non-existent. So if we can start to provide some of those good strains, again, we don't know all the different strains, but if we know some that are good and beneficial, if we provide those, we can at least start that process to be able to help put the body in a good spot on top of ensuring consuming probiotic rich foods like yogurt, uh, sauerkraut, kefir, however you want to pronounce that. Everyone, like, I don't know how to pronounce that even, but getting those probiotic rich foods are going to be fantastic as well. And then just making sure that you're consuming fiber rich foods.
Yeah, and I feel like that really covers a lot of the basis from what we should do from like a nutritional standpoint to kind of help our gut be healthy and function optimally. But I think two things that I think are often really overlooked when it comes to gut health that have nothing to do with fueling your body. Well, I guess one kind of does, but it's being hydrated and moving your body. If you are somebody who is struggling with constipation, I cannot tell you the number of times that that person will tell me, like, I also only drink 30 ounces of water a day. 30 ounces, a full grown adult, like that, you need to drink half of your body weight in ounces of water a day. And if you think about like what stool looks like most people don't want to think about poop, but it is, you don't have fluid in your body is going to pull it out of your gut because it's going to say, we have to hold on to this. We have to reabsorb it. We need to recycle it because we need more fluid because we need it for our blood. We need it for our saliva. Like we need it for all these other things. And so it is going to like dehydrate essentially your stool, making it harder to pass, making everything slow down as it exits, leading to constipation. And so that is one of the easiest things that you can do is start hydrating yourself to help things move along a little bit better. And then the other thing I would say is movement.
That right there is the
Go
biggest
for it.
concern that I have with the trend of fiber maxing type of a thing coming out, of individuals all of a sudden increasing that fiber intake astronomically overnight. If you are not consuming the fluid, that is one of the biggest challenges and just issues that you're going to get is all of a sudden it's going to bind you up and you're going to feel horrible as a result of it.
Yeah. And so I think, like we said at the very beginning, there is like, I'm going to get this saying wrong. Everything is only good, good in so much, right? Like if you do too much of anything is bad. There it is. I knew it was in my brain somewhere. Uh, Too much of anything is bad. And so like fiber is great. And fiber is also great because it's a naturally occurring thing, right? Like most people are like, oh yeah, like vegetables, like they're really good for you. And they are. But if you don't balance it out with other really good things for you, too much of anything becomes problematic at some point. So, yeah, I think that's a really good point to make about the fiber maxing thing, which must be a TikTok trend because I haven't heard a lot about it in the office. And most of my patients are of the millennial generation. And so they are like, what is TikTok? So, who knows? It's probably coming in the office soon, I'm guessing.
Yeah, again, I told you, I'm super hip. I'm up to date on all these latest trends and things.
You are. You are. But yeah, the last thing that I would kind of say that is really important for moving stool along, constipation, things like that, is moving your body. Movement is how the gut uses something called peristalsis. It's small contractions to kind of move food and waste through our intestines, and it is stimulated by the contraction and movement of other muscles and parts of your body. So, similar to how veins move blood up from your extremities, why people say if you're on an airplane, you should pump your feet, you should get up and walk around because it contracts your
Hmm.
calves and your hamstrings to push blood back up. The same thing is happening with the gut. And so if we aren't moving and we're very still and sedentary throughout our day or our daily routine, it kind of slows things down even further. I see this a lot with babies where, babies when they're first born sometimes are struggling to move so long. Parents will bring their baby in with like colic or other things, and Jay gets to hear it through the walls all the time because there's fussy, fussy babies in here, but they don't know how to move yet. And so they are still like in this I'm stuck position. And unless us as adults are helping them move, everything gets stuck. And so just teaching parents how to do these simple belly massages and get their hips moving, it helps the baby relax so much and the stool just moves right through. And so it is like a very isolated example of what happens to us as adults, but that's why it's so important to be moving your body. I mean, for a million other reasons, but also if you're constipated, you should move.
Yeah, love it. So the combination of making sure you're eating quality food, getting a adequate amounts of fiber in, moving the body regularly, you're gonna be pooping like a champ. Moral of the story, right there.
Yeah, and if not, you should come get adjusted because then your nervous system's probably out of whack, and that's probably the problem. Had to give a little chiropractic plug in there because it helps all things. But yeah, I mean, really, the fiber, the eating well, probiotics, water, those are your big things.
There you go. Check, check, check.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, we will leave some resources for you below. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We are here to support you.
Thanks, everybody.